Welcome to SpeakEasy Online. It's October 2024. I've got a couple of notices. The main one being that Carlisle has a Unity Festival on next week, half term, starting on Saturday the 26th of October, running through to the 2nd of November. And there's various activities and there's stuff on the Facebook page, but it includes the in-person Speakeasy next Wednesday at the Source Collective, 7:30 in Denton Home. And then Haiku Dave Simmons has got a workshop on Monday afternoon at the Star Open Studios on 3 West Tower Street in Carlisle. And that's 1 till 3 p.m. in the afternoon on Monday. And there's other interesting bits and pieces that I think I emailed out to everybody, and I can put it on social media and things. But if people are interested, do look it up on the socials, as the young people say. And it's all free, and there's hopefully we'll be able to celebrate our diversity and local interesting things that are going on. So yeah, that's the human notice board thing finished for this time. It's good to see you all. Good to be back. I've got a couple of pieces, and we'll go around the group. We'll do what, 1 or 2 pieces each, and then go around and then see how we get on. Right. These are my ponderings from visiting hospital. Now I have nowhere for all those random anecdotes. I'm a phrase book without a glossary of terms. My editor has deleted the postscript. The addendum has been removed. I'll cut a long story short. They've taken out my appendix. It's based on a true story. Thank you. And then I must say my internet's been playing up recently, so hopefully I don't disappear halfway through this call, but we'll see how we get on. But we'll make it work. And then I've got a little limerick based on a similar subject, and then I'll tell people what the running order is, because we haven't done it for so long. I forgot to tell people who's next. I think, yeah, maybe they didn't just take out my appendix, George. They took out the old brain cells too. God, they were some good drugs that they gave me. Anyway, being ill's not like at the flicks. Pains shoot from my appendix. I'm missing your hugs. Gone cold turkey from drugs. But the problem is hopefully fixed. So there you are. So, inspiration came from adversity. Oh, thanks very much. Cheers. Okay. Here's the running order, everybody. It's always this smooth, Cat. It's always this slick. It's always this professional. In fact, this is going better than usual. Hazel, are you free to go next? And then George, Val, Roz, and then maybe Kat if you want to follow Roz. All right, very kind. Okay, over to you, Hazel, who I understand had an amazing book launch recently.
Yeah, thank you for putting that on, Phil. And I just thought perhaps it might be, you can tell I've really thought ahead about this because I haven't actually got the poem that maybe I'll just start with the one I ended on the launch, just that ways to claim writer status. Buy books. Build a library of writers whose tribe you want to belong to. So many books you may never have the time to read, but whose amassed talents spill to be soaked up by osmosis. Buy books on how to write. Study the lives of writers, poets. How do they create? Attend writing workshops. Keep a diary. You would die if anyone else read. You're not aiming for Anne Frank status, the kind of immortality she wrote, born of the pressure of scant weeks of survival. Remember how you hated dictation at school, the tyranny of transcribing dictated words, how back then your hand could travel across the page while your imagination roamed in other worlds. Whisper the word to yourself under the covers at night. Buy notebooks and even more notebooks. Travel, even if it's only via Google. Read in all the spaces in the day and write. If you're awake, make sure you have a pen and a page to fill. One day, you might make it to poet. And Chris's addendum to that one was, yes, well, early to bed, early to rise. It may improve your baggy eyes, but it won't get you the Nobel Prize. Which really, given that I read it in a Scottish accent, is a little bit misleading because she was the English voice and I was the Scottish voice. But there we are.
That was
Got a
great.
bit of a mishmash. Thank you.
Oh, it was great. Love that. Have I got the book here? No, I haven't. Yeah. No, your collection is wonderful. It's the two-in-one upside down book. Live and Lippy. There we are. Yeah, Live and Lippy. That's two upside down. But brilliant. What's it like for you? And Dance for Those Who'd Rather Not. Fantastic. Published by.
I have to actually say, Phil, did you know there was a lady who actually bought what she thought was one of each and then had to go back and ask Lucy for a refund because she hadn't realized it was the same book, bless her. Anyway,
Oh, that was a
we did
sneaky.
think that that was a good selling ploy. Anyway,
That was good. We were trying to maximize double our sales. Oh well, that's good. Thank you very much, Hazel. Cheers, George. Hello, George. What have you got for us?
Well, I'll just a little plug then and say these are two separate books. The Dead of Jericho and Ekphrastic Imagination. But anyway, I know that, I'll just stop it. I've got a poem here, which I can't even say the title of normally, but I'll try. It's Matriarchy. Here's to the love of a sharp-eyed daughter, and to the guile her mother taught her, who knew the threat of the boys who sought her. If an innocent their flattery brought her, another lamb sacrificed to their slaughter, a life of regret and woe thereafter. So she taught her sharp-eyed daughter, made it a game so full of laughter, gave her an armour for ever after, for men to worship the sharp-eyed daughter, who employed all the while she taught her, in her turn taught her sharp-eyed daughter to bask in the love that men brought her.
Put my John Langley hat on for a minute. How did that come to you then, George? Where did that come from?
I just suddenly had this thing about oh for the love of a sharp-eyed daughter. It sort of came to me because of, that the Highwayman poem, which I can never remember, the dark-eyed, I've forgotten what the line is now, but there's a dark-eyed daughter, I think, in the Highwayman.
Hmm.
So I suddenly thought I'd play about. I just quite liked playing about with the line, the rhyme, the rhyming at the end of the line. So it was just a bit of fun. Sometimes I try to write things that are less than suicidal.
Yes, it's a nice change when you do those, George. Thank you very much. Yeah, you get all sorts. You get all sorts. Okay, Val, we're with you. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yep, yep.
That's good. One for Halloween. It's called The Witching Hour. Picture the nighttime scene. You're quite drunk. It's Halloween. You're feeling tired and rather sleepy. The churchyard really is quite creepy. At every little sound you're jumping, and your heart just won't stop thumping. And far off in the mist and gloom, you suddenly see a black shape loom. And every nerve begins to twitch. You're convinced that this must be a witch. With no lantern, you don't have any power to scare witches in this witching hour. Stirring their cauldrons of foul smells, flying on brooms and casting spells. Now it's coming at you through the fog. By tomorrow you could be a frog. Oh my God, it's just a dog.
Is yours based on a true story as well?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Say no more.
No, it's good. Thank you very much. Okay, Roz, we're with you. What you got?
Whoops. Thought I'd have a look at what I'd done the other week when you weren't there, so I didn't bore you all again. I'll just bore Val. So I've got, I was trying to think what a cubist poem would be like. So I wrote this, and Val thinks I'm insane, but that's all right. This is a cubist poem. If a poem relies on its manipulation of an understandable language when putting forward an idea, how can it be possible to write a cubist poem that moves beyond the accepted forms of word representation towards the reality of what is said? To take a subject and present it from every possible angle, so the poem is the whole idea in a single entity, a complete that contains all discussion, all the issues within, from every conceivable point of view. Logically, this would mean there can be no singular interpretation, though all will think they know what it means and imbue it with every possible explanation. But people only hear from their own perspective. By making all points to all, it renders itself useless, is incapable of saying anything. Only with this poem, which is a complete poem that's clearly told you nothing, contains a line right at the start. Remember, I already told you this is a cubist poem. And it sort of made sense when I wrote it. Not to anybody else. Sorry.
You do come up with some interesting pieces, Roz, and yeah. So come on, where did that idea come from then?
I was just wondering what a cubist poem would look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided it wouldn't really look like anything very much, because you can't write from every possible angle, even if you can see an image from lots of different angles. But then cubist paintings don't often make a lot of sense.
I think an audience can give a poem their own meaning, can't they? Yeah, could be like
They'll just have to, won't they? Yeah.
I think they will. It's like maybe it's like a Rubik's Cubist poem where you just turn it and shake up all the pieces and try and put it back together. That's your next assignment. Thank you, Roz. Okay, Kat, hello. Have you got a poem you'd like to read to us?
It's called Do You Speak Computer? Are you sitting comfortably? If not, adjust your seat. Support your back, protect your eyes, and rest your dangly feet. Power up, log on, select word, then click and double click. Drop down the program, it's time to take your pick. Keyboard at the ready, mouse and icon bars. Activate screensavers with sounds and shooting stars. Viruses and hard disks, floppies, RAMs and ROM. The IT world's amazing, it just goes on and on. Open Windows, check the font, and up your DPIs. Drop in designer dingbats, create and customize. Print documents and greetings cards, their formats to complete. Send it, save it, file it, frame it, select and press delete. Bitmaps, bullets, borders, browsers, and bold text. Check print, design and spelling, and better back up next. EPS and vectors, pictures in 3D. Auto shapes and symbols, a clip art gallery. Scan it, crop it, nudge it, fill it, scale your screen display. Find it, flip it, drag it, shade it, clear it right away. Rotate and stretch it, merge and mail it, free your memory. Zoom and copy, paste and group it, online wizardry. It's so much fun, the hours just fly, but the family wants their tea. So pop it in your folder and turn off properly. My head is full of great ideas I cannot wait to try. I think about the World Wide Web as I watch my bacon fry. I'll do spreadsheets tomorrow. That's it. It's silly.
Brit Silly is most welcome here. That was great. Thank you very much, Kat. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're back to the beginning. We're back to me again. All right. Yeah. Well, October is Black History Month. So, got a poem a few years ago. We did some events at Tully House, and this is one of the poems that came out one of the years we did work there. This is called Who Knew? Who knew just what wickedness folk, people can do? That primal central instinct for preservation, to rise to the top of the tree, make others work for thee, for free. Through fear and domination, to forge the greatest nation, built upon a warped foundation. Who decides one race is strong and one is weak? Who is the enlightened one and who the freak? Last time I checked, there was only one race, to which we all belong. Those greedy actions justified by profits of many kinds, all so bloody wrong. Where was the thought? Where was the love? Where was the understanding? Where was the humanity? It took far too long to stop this insanity. But it never really goes away, rebranded, repackaged for another day. Anything you want, anyone you want. Who knew? When the first ones left that central cradle, spread far and wide across this world, moving out as far as they're able, to the cold lands, wet and bleak, there's fertile soil, but the sun is weak. The body's genes, with less melanin, become the norm, to let the sunshine in. A mutant spawns the pale skin race, and difference and prejudice is born. Ideology and misunderstood biology are the weapons of choice for the mutants who think that they're the chosen. But you're rewriting a past, a history that's interwoven, seeing it from another angle. I guess some people would sell their own grandmothers to make it rich. Some bright spark came up with this magical triangle. What a Weasley son of a bitch. Kidnap those inferior. We'll find them in the interior. Use the opiate of the masses or just brute force, clubs or broken glasses. African people, we take them, cross the ocean, and we make them break their backs on some plantation. We can't pay them, but promise their salvation. To live in chains your whole life just because you're not white. Who are the weak? This is not forgot. Who is the freak? This was people's lot. And those who reaped rewards are still the wealthy dukes and lords. You ever wonder how they made their cash? You'll find it rests upon a stash of bones, no different to yours. Sweat, no different from yours. Blood, no different from yours. Tears, no different from yours. So who knew, through a fault in pigmentation, would lie centuries of subjugation? Thanks, so-called civilization, indifferent for so long to the protestations. Back, sheltered in the cradle, at the rise of humankind, when blackness was a virtue, before the birth of time. Who knew? Here you are. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, well, it was quite a powerful sort of subject to be asked to write about, and then those words came out. So there you are. Right, it's just informed me we've got about 9.5 minutes to go, but we'll carry on. Hazel, we're with you. Have you got another poem for us?
I have. I've got one that kind of continues a little bit with it's not from Black History Month, but anyway, it's called Unprecedented Negligence. And my subtitle for it is for 15 years before the disaster, Union Carbide routinely dumped highly toxic chemical waste at sites inside and outside the factory. And this year's the 40th anniversary of the Bhopal disaster. But early 1970s, and Bhopal was proud to host international industry. Union Carbide citing their factory optimistically to supply potential buyers of their pesticides. But Indian farmers had scant funds to spare after focusing on droughts and floods. Loss-making production was shut down, though more than 60 tons of lethally unstable methyl isocyanate remained on site. Unprecedented negligence, willfully inadequate maintenance. That night, none of the 6 safety systems designed to detect a leak were in operation. Unprecedented negligence, willfully inadequate maintenance. That night was to blight Bhopal beyond belief, changing the trajectory of its people with little relief into uncounted, uncharted generations. The thousands perishing that night, just the start of the unfolding apocalyptic horror. A hapless engineer flushing a long corroded pipe, unprecedented negligence, willfully inadequate maintenance, a series of safety valves failing, allowing water to enter one of the 3 giant steel storage tanks. The resulting reaction shattering the tank's concrete casing, spewing a deadly concoction over Bhopal. The sleeping city was shrouded in toxicity. A 27-ton cloud of lethal gases enfolding the population in unprecedented contamination, a polluted embrace. People panicked, stampeding, screaming, desperate to outrun the fatal white cloud, striving to survive as their lung tissue burned with poisonous fire, eyes and noses streaming, mouths frothing, coughing, racking bodies, writhing in agony. The start of an exponential death toll rolling on for decades. The biggest industrial disaster in history, caused by unprecedented negligence, willfully inadequate maintenance, and ongoing refusal to accept responsibility or make adequate reparation or proper compensation. So if anybody's interested in more about that, it's most of the facts from this were actually taken from an article that appeared in The Guardian on Wednesday, the 14th of June last year, 2023. And the article's called The Long Dark Shadow of Bhopal, Still Waiting for Justice 4 Decades On. So I know it's not very cheery, but it kind of felt like it was a follow-on from Phil's. And although Roz's Cubist poem, I do have a surrealist poem, I thought maybe we'd come back to that because it's a bit lighter. Rather than end on a grim note, have something a wee bit lighter. But yeah, I just think it's appalling, and just that sense of, big pharma and the big multinationals are still evading justice. They've got the money to pay the lawyers it's just words fail me sometimes.
Yeah,
But anyway,
no, it is a disgrace, Hazel.
oh,
We just for but it's also, I mean, I did comment a while back that everyone began to be so upset about, and it is terrible what's happening in Ukraine and what's happening in Lebanon, etc. But there's always much greater angst if it's white people that are dying. I
yeah,
think, the news reports of other disasters that have happened don't carry the same weight, I'm afraid.
I absolutely agree, because the amount of people who've never heard of the Bhopal disaster, and yet it literally is the biggest industrial disaster that has ever happened. And yet, like, so most people haven't heard of it. Anyway, that's enough of that, but we'll definitely go on to Cheery. I'm going to put me on mute so that I definitely have to jump off my soapbox.
No, it was a very powerful piece that, Hazel. We'll give you a round of applause. It was really good. Poetry can be really powerful. Thank you. All right, we've got about 3.5 minutes. George, we're with you. Do you have one for us?
So yeah, sure. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do a thing from Ekphrastic Imagination. So I'll just tell you that you can find all the pictures that these are based on visual verses, and this was Visual Verse Volume 9, Chapter 9. But it's a picture made up of various images, but the main one is of a Highland cow with a twisted horn. Do you see? Do you see? Do you? Judge my twisted horn, not so cute, perhaps cull. Do you fear I might contaminate the gene pool? Contamination. You must understand, you must. You are experts in causing destruction. Your cities, your mess, your pollution. Can you read my thoughts? What you think a flaw comes with your disjointed planet. Breaking. You're doing. Shattered beauty all around, flooded lands and a sea of plastic, drought and fire, the dying you conjure from your debris. This world is all we have, is all draining like sand, falling through the upturned timer. Look into my eyes. Can you see a future?
Well, that was powerful as well, George. Yeah, we've entered into the moody second round where everything is crushingly grim. But yeah, that was, and that just came from seeing that image.
Yeah, so it's you have an hour. Well, it's self-imposed, but you've to see the image and write a poem in an hour is the idea of it, and then you send that in, and Visual Verses stop now, unfortunately. Janetto has been on it, so has Craig. I can't remember who else. I'm sure others from the group have been on it, but certainly both of them have been.
Yeah, and it ran for a number of years, didn't it, George?
I think it ran for about 12 years, but I didn't find it until about 4 years in or something like that, maybe more. I think I was only there for the last 3 years, so I may be exaggerating. But the girl that ran it stopped now, but she keeps the archives there, so you can look at all the people's poems, you can look at the images and see how people responded. And normally they posted 80 to 100 poems based on each image.
Wow, that's a good number of sponsors. That's great. All right, we're coming towards the end of this first part, so I might push the magic button if we all use the same login details, and we'll pick up again for round 2, if that sounds okay. Yeah, okay.
The Bhopal thing is so moving,
Isn't it?
from
Yeah.
Hazel, but it's such a terrible event, and she's so right. It's about wealth overcoming a poor population.
Yeah.
I mean, if it had happened to someplace in America, God knows what they'd have done. They'd have had them out, they'd have shot them or sent them to some prison for 365 years. 360 or 2,000 life sentences running after each other.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you said, Hazel, about it depends where things happen in the world as to how people respond. It shouldn't be that way.
Although the slavery thing, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but then the bulk of populations actually lived in conditions which, while they might not be actual slavery, were so attuned to slavery or alike to slavery, that it's hardly surprising that there was masses of people that didn't really look on it particularly badly because they lived their lives under so much oppression as it was.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think I've said this before. Miners in Fife were not allowed to be buried in consecrated ground because they were considered to live their life closer to the devil because they were underground. But they were not allowed to take any other work other than mining, and their offspring, the male offspring, had to go down the pit because they knew that nobody would volunteer. Well, not, not nobody would volunteer, but basically they said the owners, the people, the mine owners owned the villages, and they said we need a workforce, so every male that's born in the of a miner has to be a miner.
I didn't know that, George. I didn't know that they weren't allowed to be buried in
I mean,
consecrated.
I'm not sure if everywhere, but in a lot of places they weren't allowed to be buried in consecrated ground because they were considered to be the children of the devil. And if they left the village and tried to move to another village, they were compulsory sent back.
Wow.
Horrifying,
So,
isn't it?
you know, I mean, I'm not saying that slavery. I'm not justifying slavery. I just mean that there was so many other people that lived in conditions which, while they were not actual slavery, were so close to it that it was the fact that they didn't actually stand up and revolt was partly because they had nowhere to revolt from.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
But you're right, Phil. The fault that on the world still on the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bought with blood.
It's amazing how little changes in some regard. We'll see if we'll keep
Well,
it.
a personal hate of mine is that people keep telling me that Churchill is the greatest Englishman. And I tell you, if he's your greatest Englishman, you should weep. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with everything, it gets manipulated by different people who want to focus on certain things and not other.
I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't a time when he was the person that you needed and he did great things, but he did great things in the back of some absolute horrendous things.
Oh yeah.
Such as the starvation in Bengal.
Oh yeah. It's 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 people are complicated creatures, aren't they, George?
Oh, I know, I'm not saying it's simple. I
It's
just mean that I think you have to be very careful about people that you elevate to godlike status and
yeah.
pretend that they're not flawed as we all are.
Well, it's that question about what is a hero and what isn't a hero and where do you draw the line and like you say, some actions are good and some people, there's a lot of shades of grey with most people, isn't there? Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, I mean, I'm not but that's what I was meaning about slavery. That there's lots of things that we can't actually envisage from the position that
Yeah,
we live in. You know, the circumstances that we've been able to enjoy. The people that at the time didn't see anything wrong in it because they didn't see anything wrong with, if they were the Lord of the Manor, they didn't see anything wrong with ordering people's lives about anyway.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the time in which we live is a very lucky time for us all to be alive in, really. I mean, you don't have to go back very many generations at all for it to be really hard for people. And that's still within living memory for a lot of people as well. So, welcome to George and Phil discuss life and the universe and everything. I told you, there's tangents.
Hazel started it. Hazel started it.
Anyway, thank you. We're all back in the room now. I think we were with Val next. So have you got something for us, Val?
Yeah, I'm still light in the mood with what about fireworks for one fire night. It's called Firework Nostalgia. The fireworks light up the night and bang with bursts of green and white. Silver stars whiz up the sky, golden snakes go screeching by. I remember going into town, clutching my precious £0.50 and looking at the shop's display of coloured fireworks bright and gay. A bag of treasures I took back, a Catherine wheel, a jumping jack, a packet of sparklers and a rocket, coloured Bengal matches in my pocket. Each firework had a lovely name: Silver Fountain, Golden Rain, Rainbow Cascade, Carnival of Flowers. I sat and looked at them for hours. Children now wouldn't understand the joys of a tiny firework that made no noise. But bonfire nights were always fun, and it feels quite sad those days have gone. Go back to serious poems now.
Yeah, nostalgia is always tinged with an element of longing, isn't it? Usually for sort of like childhood memories or something. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Remember, we used to keep them under the bed, didn't we? And you think now they would have a heart attack or that.
Oh my lord. Oh well, that was the old days, eh?
Yeah.
What have you got for us, Roz?
Well, I thought I'd give you my philosophy of aging, part 1, valid arguments, to which there is no part 2, but hey ho, there might be one day. But I've lost, because I'm trying to do the split screen, I can't find the bit down the side to move. There we go. Right. Young often wonder why they are told to be kind to people when they get old. They think it faintly ridiculous, a bit of a joke, just an idea that's put about by old folk. But unless you're unlucky and get hit by a bus, I'm afraid it's inevitable you'll become one of us. There are no alternatives that have yet been found. Therefore, the last statement is empirically sound. And what I need to do is put some glasses on, because I don't realise when I'm not reading. Words. Wonderful. Sorry, I'll carry on now. You can cut that bit out, Phil, if you can. I don't know. You'll realise your youth was just the first stage of the rocket that propelled you towards old age. To be young was necessary, but not sufficient. For age takes years to become proficient. When your eyes grow dim and your hearing gets tinnier, you come to understand that aging is linear, and many little things seem to creep up by stealth to contribute to the state of your declining health. If you're young, just consider what I've had to say when you wish that old fogey would get out of the way, because each of my premises are sound and true, and you can be absolutely certain age will happen to you. So being kind to old people is clearly for the best, since basically you're acting in self-interest. No one can disagree with the words I present, since I've made both a sound and valid argument. And that was that.
Thanks, Roz. And there's not going to be any continuity errors with glasses and no glasses in the editing. That's going to be fine. Okay, thank you, Roz. Okay, Kat, we're back with you. Do you have another one for us? Yeah. You're on mute again. You could do some mime for us.
That's the one.
Hey,
Is that it?
that's right. Fantastic.
Sorry, I'll just do a quick. Right, you've definitely heard this one. The repugnant potion works better than whiskey and a plethora of pills. This repugnant infusion will cure all your ills, toenails and pigtails and putrefied Swedes, dog dribble and toad's warts and decayed centipedes, hard wax from a bat's ear and festering mould, mixed with pea from a cowpat before it's gone cold, all ground up on a millstone smeared with stinky dead crow, then stewed in a sheep's skull till it emits a green glow. Then add a big handful of boiled macaroni. This recipe, well, it's a load of baloney. Sorry. Very silly.
Thank you, Kat. That was great.
That's all right for Halloween, wasn't it?
Yeah, spot on.
There you go.
Waiting for Eye of Newton.
Oh no. But it sort of was there in the back of my mind.
Hubble bubble, toil and trouble. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Right. That's another round we've done. So now,
quick.
I know, we're all professional poets who've shared our words. I've got a little story here, which is the latest installment of the rambling adventures of a certain feathered vigilante detective hero. I've George's favourite story, the latest in the never-ending saga of Kung Fu Penguin. Now, some of you have heard Kung Fu Penguin before, and some of you haven't. And it would take too long to really explain too much of Kung Fu Penguin, but you'll probably pick it up as we go along. Kung Fu Penguin came about during the pandemic and lives in a cartoon world, and we're at the third series of crazy adventures for Kung Fu Penguin, which have taken on a very weird turn, and we're at episode 6. But luckily there's a recap, because we've not had one of these since May. But yeah, bear with me. Or go and make a cup of tea, or have some dinner, or you've probably got about 10 minutes. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Okay, George, this is for you. This is Kung Fu Penguin, Series 3, Episode 6. And it goes something like this. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to pitch this as some kind of Broadway show, so there's kind of a musical element to this as well. So we'll see how that goes. So here we go. Previously on Kung Fu Penguin. Previously, private investigator Kung Fu Penguin and disgraced physicist, professor and paranormal podcaster Davinia Brush were on the hunt to find missing archaeologist Professor Schrodinger before being kidnapped by mystic Alaska May Fortune and taken to Skin-Crawler Ranch, home to the Piccolo Institute for the Science of the Strange. As guests of eccentric millionaire Brian Piccolo, they witnessed an unusual experiment using sound and frequency which appeared to bring space adventurer Ray Beam to them from some parallel world, and he is on the hunt for a missing girl. So we're keeping up already, this is yeah. The whole thing has been live streamed via the Dr. Bobcat Investigates podcast, and they are rounded up by a military team who arrived in a helicopter and whisked them away. Our heroes find themselves in a grey concrete bunker under the watchful eye of a dozen soldiers, dressed in green fatigues, facing a grisly-looking general, who stands rather imposingly before them, with a large steel globe highlighting all the countries of the world behind him. Well, I've got to think of a voice. Kung Fu Penguin, Dr. Davinia Brush, Alaska May Fortune, Ray Beam. Aren't you a ragtag band of misfits? You're guests at an unnamed U.S. government facility somewhere in the desert. It's nice to be here, Colonel. Welcome. It's, general malaise. That's one of the jokes. Yeah, I got a bad feeling about this, too. You're gonna have to work on your attitude, Penguin. Me and my big mouth. It's part of my winning personality. Oh, we want to know the answers to our questions. We want to know... This is going to be edited out as well. We want to know the answers to our questions. What are you doing at the Piccolo Institute for Science of the Strange? We're looking for her uncle, Chester A. Schrodinger. He's an archaeologist. He's been missing for weeks. We were taken to Pish by an act of misfortune. Don't get cute, Penguin. The professor is purportedly in possession of some ancient artifact he discovered 30 years ago at an archaeological dig that millionaire Brian Piccolo financed. Do you happen to know where it is? What artifact? A metallic cylinder, a dull steel color that looks almost like a solid tin can. Sorry, I got no idea. Any of you guys know what he's talking about? Everyone shrugged and muttered that they didn't know. I remember how to do this voice. That's where those agents were. I haven't done this for ages. That's what those agents were talking about. They were very insistent. I didn't know what they were talking about. Told them to take a hike. They didn't like that. Oh, I'm so worried about him. Well, Miss Brush, no need to worry any longer. We found him 3 days ago wandering in the desert at one of our test ranges. We tried to debrief him. The interview did not go well. Professor Schrodinger doesn't quite seem himself. We talked to somebody else. Can't we see it? The interview, Ray Beam suggested helpfully. The general snapped his fingers and a recording began playing on a screen. Welcome to Inside the Box with Professor Chester A. Schrodinger. This week's show is sponsored by the concept of unity. 11, 21, 142, 12. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Where's this crazy cat been all this time? Well, it's a good question. One I'm still trying to figure out an answer to. Last I remember, I was visiting an old dig site for some reason. 11, 21, 142, 12. And then it all goes a little hazy. Luckily, I put down some words about how I feel. And then we segue into the musical number that we're hoping that Andrew Lloyd Webber might pick up on or something, you know. Maybe one day. Am I alive or am I dead? Should I be somewhere else instead? What are these numbers running through my head? I've got to think outside the box. Don't want to wake up brown bread. I've misplaced my bearings. I'm all lost at sea. I feel like a stopped clock. Time has run away from me. Am I alive or am I dead? Should I be somewhere else instead? Perhaps our lives are entangled. Our actions are related. The course waits to be charted. A location triangulated. I lay free, not in servitude. I'd show my gratitude. I'll tell this latitude and a sister longitude. For am I alive or am I dead? Should I be somewhere else instead? Now I roll the dice. I'm faced with a choice. It gave me answers, spoken with an inner voice. I had only questions, all the time enough to ask. Flashes return to me, an eternity they will last. For am I alive or am I dead? Should I be somewhere else instead? Am I alive or am I dead? Should I be somewhere else instead? Thank goodness, he's been gone weeks. Where's he been all this time? We hoped you could tell us, growled the general. What are those numbers he keeps repeating? Asked the podcaster curiously. 11, 21, 142, 12. They sound like coordinates, suggested Ray Bean. 11, 21 north, 14212 East. Where is that? Miss Fortune walked up to the impressive globe and pointed to the location.
Here, in the Pacific Ocean.
Where's that?
The Mariana Trench.
Why would he be thinking about that? I don't know. Maybe he's got water on the brain. Could that be where he's been all this time? The general muttered. It seems to have been on his mind. What did he mean, answers spoken with an inner voice?
Perhaps it's a place with a great significance for him.
The mystic, Alaska May Fortune, suggested. There's a great deal still to explore in our planet's seas. We know more about the moon than we do about our oceans, observed Dr. Brush. I don't need to be a psychic to sense there's another installment in the Dr. Bobcat Investigates podcast coming imminently. How do you think taking Professor Schrödinger there may help jog his memory as to where he left the artifact? Asked a slightly skeptical General Malaise. Well, possibly. What have you got to lose? Oh, you have no idea what you're wading into, Penguin. That sounds about right. Usually I only find out once I'm up to my neck in it. Okay. The general turned to some soldiers. Bring the professor with us. What has Professor Schrödinger stumbled across? Will they find out where he's been? And can they account for the missing time? What answers will they uncover? Will any of them get in tune with their inner voice? Why does the military seem so interested in this metal artifact? What will our heroes discover in the Mariana Trench? Where will the trail lead? Find out next time on Kung Fu Penguin. There you are. Make of that what you will. Goodness, that's taken longer than I anticipated. Thank you. I'll spare you the theme tune unless you're desperate to hear the theme tune. I'll do that later. I'll do the theme tune later. Thank you. Over to you, Hazel. Follow that.
Well, I don't think I can exactly follow that, really, can I? However,
It's difficult to follow.
on the other hand, I did mention this surrealist poem, which came from actually, George, I think it was you. You did Napo. Well, you probably do it every year. But I think I did start it last year and didn't do very well at all. But this year I did actually manage to get some. And this was from the third one, which was you were challenged to write a surreal prose poem. And for inspiration, check out Franz Kafka's collection of short parables. Anyway, so it's not even got a title. It's the untitled surrealist prose poem. You wore a kettle with a gardenia emitting turquoise scents of summer. You wanted to abseil down a microscope to change places with an amoeba. A steam train staggered up to the breakfast nook and poured a pink coffee, trilling the shotgun sings the song. On the rug, a mountain shook hands with your dream of gentleness, and a lantern was lit in my liver. So that seems like a good nonsense to go.
Yeah.
What else could I do really on the end of trying to follow Kung Fu Penguin?
That followed on beautifully. You get a range at these things. I mean, you can have very profound works like that, and very moving, and then really weird, wacky, makes you think. Okay, George, what have you got for us?
Right, Hazel. Sorry, I haven't looked at this since April. So I suddenly thought I'll do my supposedly surreal prose poem from day 3. I'm not sure. I don't think it's. You're sounding more surreal, Hazel. But this is Keyboard Blues. Gremlins flit from the computer. Fingers tingle with anger, or are they stroked by malevolence as failed emails stretch nerves? Somewhere a file hides waiting to be discovered. My brain shorts, splitters a cloud of curses, and asks all forms of torture to befall whatever the intelligent who thought this wise. How I miss the coo of pigeon, the days when fingers twirled a metal disc on a black Bakelite telephone. I did not understand that either, but there was pleasure in crashing the handset to the cradle. Now I crash the keyboard in dismay and watch a million flickers as the screen in silent agony fades and dies. I chase gremlins round the room singing, "Feed me peanuts and bananas, I'm off to the Bahamas, and if you have a wee boot, I beg you take a free boot and reboot the computer up the ass."
So that job in IT didn't work out so well for you, did it, George? Yeah. You got to rail against technology sometimes.
I have to say though,
Sorry.
I was just going to say I'd forgotten, George. You're absolutely right. The delight sometimes in clattering down the handset when you were hanging up in anger, and you can't do that now.
And computers are no way as lovable as a pigeon.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if artificial intelligence is anything, it can't be any worse than our human intelligence anyway, judging by the world that we've got. So maybe they would figure out a way for the result to live together.
Maybe. We'll hope so. Well, you've made it really difficult for Val. Val, can you follow any of this?
I just thought I'd read this. It was like one time when I was on here and everybody was reading very serious and very proper poetry, and I was coming out with some daft bit of verse. I kind of felt a bit like a cuckoo in the nest, so I wrote this poem called The Cuckoo in the Nest. She wanted to be a poet, but sadly she confessed her little cliched rhymes were probably not the best, and all the proper poets looked very unimpressed as they gawped like baby birds at the cuckoo in the nest. So she sat back down, feeling quite depressed, her heart worn on her sleeve, her sentiments expressed. But with literary prowess, she wasn't all that blessed, and she felt she'd always be the cuckoo in the nest. Yet she came to realise it was not some kind of test, and her funny little rhymes soon met with some success. And maybe it's not so bad to be different from the rest, and so she's found her place as the cuckoo in the nest. Thank you.
Well, you're always welcome here, Val.
Thank you.
I mean, it's probably one of the pieces that's made the most sense on this particular round, to be perfectly honest. Thank you. Roz, we're with you. Do you have something for us? Oh, you have to unmute, Roz.
Sorry, I thought I did, but obviously didn't. Did. Anyway, this is just short, but I thought this time I did something sane. When I couldn't catch your attention with my style of prose, I thought I'd try a rhyme. So here goes. Here's a gentle sing-song with natural flows that nobody will judge since nobody cares, provided my work's just a little worse than theirs. What's that? Okay.
That was great. When you said it was a little rhyme, I didn't realize it was a little rhyme. That was good. Thank you very much. Okay, Kat, do you have another one for us?
Okay. I'm going to have to go after this, I'm afraid.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's another stupid one, but there you go. The ride-on mower. Darling, I need your assistance. It's the mower. Let me explain. I think it's the carburettor. It's blocked or flooded again. Good heavens. You don't need to keep pulling the choke. Just leave it. It'll get better. No, the engine's stopped. It's not going to go. I've definitely flooded the carburettor. It's only just back from the garage. The chap told me the needle was bent. So the carburettor's running just fine now. It should be for the money I've spent. So you've probably just gone and jammed it. You must remember to empty the grass. If not, you'll obstruct the thing's blower pipe and cause a damp clogging green mass. Sorry, I don't know where that grass came from, but it's got lots of A's in. Well, I'm sorry, dear, but this time you're wrong. I'm sure the poor thing is toast. It hissed and coughed and spluttered, and then finally gave up the ghost. Since when did you become a mechanic, my clever, sweet little dumb blonde? Oh, since about 10 minutes ago, dear, when I drove the mower into the pond. Very silly, isn't it? Oh, dear.
I like that one as well. That's brilliant. That's tremendous.
That did almost happen to us. Didn't quite go in the pond, but yeah. So there you go.
That's
Nearly
great.
through the dining room window, but still.
Oh,
Anyway,
my
it's been
goodness.
lovely. I'm going to have to go, actually.
Thank you. Thank you for joining
okay.
in with us tonight, Kat.
Thank
It's been
you. It was
great. Wonderful
fun.
contributions. We'll probably do one more round, but yeah, thank you very much.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
See you soon. Bye. All right. Where we are. Do we want the Kung Fu Penguin theme tune? George says yes. Okay. Okay then. And then we'll see where we are. We'll do one more. Oh, George, you can sing it to us. No. Kung Fu Penguin, wah wah. 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 Wrongly put behind bars, wah wah. There weren't a whole lot to do, wah wah. Learned to align his chakras, wah wah. And taught himself kung fu, wah wah. Now he fights the bad guys, wah wah. 'Cause they're not very nice, wah wah. Kung Fu's where his strength lies, wah wah. And he puts them on ice, wah wah. Kung Fu Penguin, 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 wah wah. To him it's not a matter of black and white. It's simply the difference between wrong and right. He is working day and night, always got the villains in his sights. Kung Fu Penguin, wah wah. 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 Some call him cool, others say Sub-Zero, wah wah. This 3-foot feathered vigilante, wah wah. He's not like your average hero, wah wah. Don't eat caviar or drink a fine Chianti, wah wah. He's number one, he's the best, wah wah. He always puts the R's in, wah wah. You really don't wanna mess, wah wah, with the Kung Fu Penguin. Kung Fu Penguin, wah wah. Kung Fu Penguin, wah wah. Kung Fu Penguin, wah wah. Kung Fu Penguin. Ah, that's the Kung Fu there. There we go. Thank you very much. That's great. And thank you. It was a lovely endorsement when I dropped George and John Hegley off at their hotels after the special event we did in March. And as he got out of the car and as he was saying goodbye, the last thing John said to me was, "What?" A fan there, a fan. Right. Do we fancy one more quick round and then I'll let you go and get on with your merry lives? Does that sound okay? We've got about 3 minutes, so Hazel, have you got a poem that we can do in 3 minutes?
Can I do one of the ones I did on at the launch night, which is actually not one of mine, but it's one of Chrissy's.
Sure.
Life Skills Lesson 1, How to Fix a Fuse. Obviously, don't let the fuse happen in the first place. But if it does, there are several ways to try. Seize the fizzing wires and ram them together, repeatedly jamming their damaged ends, demanding they reconnect. They won't reconnect. Hide the frayed, frazzled bits. Cover them with a butter dish, pretending it hasn't happened. Carry on as normal. That won't work either. Stuff the whole thing in a cupboard. Leave it there to moulder. Convince yourself it was rubbish from the start. Chuck it in the refuse bin. Does refusing to refuse have its own word? It's confusing. Consider the etymology. Fusion means melting by heat, but also union of different things, the state of being united or blended. Musicians and scientists treasure this precious process and understand the value of the fluid state. Go back to your fuse and examine the damage, but don't bicker. Consider how unknowably brief is life, how weary is the outside world, how precious is connection. Candlelight is enchanting, and twilight too. Hold, hug, love. I really like that, and I'm allowed to really like it when it's not actually mine, which is great. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you. It's lovely. It's such a lovely poem, and you read it beautifully as well. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Poem with us. Fantastic. I'll push the magic button. If we all sign back in, and we'll quickly do one more round, and then we'll carry on this round, and then yeah, we'll see where we are. There's been lots of good stuff.
See you in a minute.
Yeah, see you in a jiffy. There's Kung Fu Penguin's biggest fan there.
Ah, it's brilliant. I don't know how you remember all the voices, Phil. It's brilliant.
Neither do I. I don't know.
I know I said to you, but I hope something's going to be done with it.
Yeah. Well,
It really deserves it, Phil.
oh, thanks, George. Kung Fu Penguin might have a life of its own at some point, so we'll see what happens.
Hopefully. I think it must, Phil. I think it must.
It's on the long list of a million things that I need to do and get finished.
Oh, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, I'm fortunate I'm retired, so I can spend as much time as I want doing nothing, which means I probably spend a half the day playing Mahjong on the computer, just because it's easier to actually do that than think.
It's a slippery slope, George. You got to wonder how many hours have been wasted with solitaire or mahjong or things.
Oh, probably a million. But I know people that play hours of gaming. Hours and hours of gaming. I'll play games until 3 o'clock in the morning, etc.
That Finola again, was it?
No, it wasn't actually. No. I don't think Finola games. I'm not sure. I've never asked.
She's not there going, it's a new Grand Theft Auto game, George. I can't speak to you for a week.
She's too busy being successful. Says jealousy here. But I was just thinking there when Kat was speaking about carburetors and then Hazel talked about fuses. And I thought, there's so many things that I learned as a youngster. Yeah, I remember Dad showing me how to change fuses and plugs, and all plugs now seem to be these sealed units. And carburetors don't exist in cars anymore. I mean, I'm sure if you buy an old enough one, it does, but nowadays I can't look at a car engine. And it used to be I changed cylinder head gaskets and things, but I just look at it now and sort of scream.
Yeah.
Anybody can, even the mechanics, just buy a sealed unit. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually my brother was laughing because I'd had a previous car for about 3 years, and I said to him, "I've never found out yet where the washer bottle is for the screen wash." And he said, you all right?" And I said, "I just always hope that when it's in for a service or something, the garage tops up the washer bottle."
I don't think they really want you to be able to fix things these days, do they? They just want you to buy a
No, no.
replacement.
Well, that's the other problem, of course, isn't it? I mean, you look at something and you realise it's going to cost you £100 to replace, and it costs you something like £95 to buy a new one. No, no, repair it, and it costs
Yeah.
£95 to buy a new one. So,
And then they wonder why we're, under a tide of waste and can't
yeah.
recycle. And yeah, anyway, that's
Well, I was actually just looking at shoes the other day, and I was thinking, my father had a row of lasts in the garage in the hut,
yeah.
of all different sizes. And actually, I mean, he was phenomenal, a lot of things, but I actually watched him rebuild a shoe from the upper at one stage. You know, doing this, the inner sole, the lining, the whole thing, and the nails and the sewing, and you think no one would even try and do that now.
You have a job getting your shoes resoled because a lot of the
Mm.
soles won't you can't even glue a sole on top of them. It's anyway, I am sounding like a real old fart, aren't I?
No,
But
actually, I don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, it's all very well saying we're going to do away with all the petrol-driven cars, etc. But what about all the petrochemical stuff that's the sideline of that, the plastics that? And I know we're trying to do away with the plastics, but I mean, you buy a thing out of the shop and it's wrapped in 17 layers of plastic. It used to be you walked in and you could buy broken biscuits because they were stored in barrels. Sorry, I'm getting shown really soon, mates now.
you can still buy those, George, but I think they're in a bag.
Wrapped in plastic, Hazel.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. However,
I think, George, you need to have your own podcast where you reminisce about the old days and say, what you can't do these days.
and you could have guests on it, George.
Yeah.
They come and do the same thing with you.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Sorry, you wouldn't find any. I keep looking at things nowadays, and everybody that's dying is younger than me. It's kind of a bit
Oh,
worrying.
no. Well, we strayed into another topic of conversation, George. So we've had a Laurel and Hardy, broken biscuits.
Sorry, Phil. If you ban me next time, I'll know what the problem is.
It's jealous of other poets. Oh, death. Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, well, we're coming to see you for Halloween, George. I think that sounds like a plan. Trick or treat. It's both. Oh, and look who it is on the running order.
Right, well, Hazel started something running now because I went back to NaPoWriMo. So the next poem from the fourth, and funnily enough, it's another kind of surreal thing because we had to choose something from language, and the strangest thing in the world, first published in 1958, and the thing I chose was a quote, "Queer fish, but definitely. I was but jelly. He always held such cod theories, ducking and diving, I could not hook him, and our place often a sea of discarded rubbish, as if a shell had exploded in a sewer. Not so bad for him, he could dart away, while I drifted through the debris. I was jealous, but, to put it flatly, I wanted him. Like the moon pulls the tides, my course led me to a dead end. A shingle strand where some old trout, saying he'd been touched by God, basking in the glory of it, drivelled on about God's love, while children stoned me as I lay among yesterday's condoms. A mermaid's purse, the final insult. I pictured him floundering in some bed where the sand moved under his spread body. A queer fish, but definitely turned me to jelly.
Okay then, George. So what provoked that then?
Just a queer fish, but definitely. To do this prompt about the strangest thing in the world, and I suddenly thought about jellyfish writing about. I can't remember what the thing is that there's a number of fish that have the mermaid's purse,
Mm-hmm.
and I suddenly thought about a jellyfish having a crush on the flatfish. And also I thought, imagine being a jellyfish and you can't actually swim away from the pollution in the oceans. You know, you just get drifted by the tide, so you get gathered up.
Yeah, it's true. It's amazing where the imagination of George Cookito goes. Thank you, George. You you enrich these gatherings greatly. Thank you. All right, Val. I mean, it's really difficult following George's material, to be honest.
Yeah. Just a little rhyme, another Halloween one to finish with. My turnip lantern. I made a turnip lantern. I felt immense pride. His eyes were round circles, his smile big and wide, and his whole face lit up with a candle inside. And he smelt delicious as the turnip fried. A couple of days later, he shriveled up and died. And
Wow. That's really good.
short and sweet.
Short and sweet, short and bittersweet, but yeah. That was good. Yeah. Thank you. And happy Halloween to you too. And then Roz, what have you got for us?
Well, I just found this. I didn't think of getting out Halloween poems. Don't know why. What's this got a title? Shape of Poetry to Come, I called it. And this is following what George was saying about computers. And you have a little chat. Well, now it seems there's no hope for me because AI started writing poetry. It learned every form in a trice. And of course, it's always very precise. So my continuing to write at all is quite mad because most of my rhymes are rather bad. And I don't worry about punctuation too much. You could say my poems have the human touch. But I don't expect it to be long, over long, before AI learns to get its grammar wrong. And there'll be no difference between a machine and me when AI starts writing bad poetry. That was that.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope teaching AI to do art and creative things, isn't it? Because supposedly AI is being conceived of to do all the jobs and things to free up human leisure time. But if you're then getting the AI to do all the creative things as well, what are people going to do? But yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be.
We'll service the machines, Phil, because there's no else left.
We can't all do it. We can't all be servicing these machines. We're making
So we've all got one.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought about ghostwriters that write for all these personalities at the moment. So presumably in the future they'll just chuck some thoughts into a computer and the computer will ghostwrite their memoirs or their football stories or their something or other. Children's stories. All of them are doing children's stories now. See that Keira Knightley's doing a children's story now.
Everybody is, isn't they? Yeah. They probably haven't written them, you're probably right. They just told their computer to get on and do it.
Well, it's when you get ChatGPT doing its autobiography or whatever in years to come, and it'll be ghost written by another computer, and then then we just end this endless cycle of just reading stuff that's been created by other machines. I hope they all buy it, though. I mean, all the other computers have to go out and buy it then, won't they? I mean,
And the one computer suing the other computer because they've got their stories wrong.
yeah. It's could happen. Could happen.
Unauthorized biographies.
Where will it end? Where will it end? Anyway, you have to have a disclaimer saying this was created by a person. You say that's why the spelling's wrong and the colour's slightly off, or there's mistakes in it. Yeah, own the mistakes. Our mistakes are what are our own creations. Yeah. Wow. Right. I've got one more poem. We can round things off, and then yeah. It's just because it's over a year since the events of October 7th and everything that's been going off in the Middle East, as we talked about before. And this is, I keep reading this all the time. It's just a plea for peace, really. It's called An Eye for an Eye. It goes like this. If we take an eye for an eye, are we blind to all those who die? Civilization reduced to ruins, fear and uncertainty stalk the land. Innocent people caught up between hostile forces. A tinderbox blows up. Wrong actions on both sides. Religion and belief underpin actions. Thou shalt not kill, conveniently set aside. The world holds its breath. How do you take sides? And this is not the only so-called global trouble spot. There's always someone to blame. We should demand responsible actions of our leaders. Or will the world descend into the final endgame? Acceptance, tolerance are needed. Desperately, we want the killing to stop. Where's the humanity? Where is the love? Peace is better than conflict. Words are better than war. Stop the attacks. Start the talking. Is it too much to ask for? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you all for coming along tonight. It's been really, really lovely. So give yourselves a round of applause for everyone who read tonight. Everyone who read, and everyone who listened, and everyone who stayed to the end, everyone who left.
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's great
And
to see
you for setting them up indeed. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming along. It could have just been me and George doing penguin voices.
And that would have been painful.
Wah, wah. It's all good fun.
I'm sorry I didn't get to your book launch as well, Hazel. And Phil, who organised it.
It's all right. We'll organise another one. It was good, wasn't it? And we'll do another one.
Yeah. I think everybody enjoyed it really, and there was because one of the poets came up to me at the beginning and he said, quite often it's just us poets reading to each other, and I felt like saying, I know all about that. But in actual fact, we did have people who weren't doing a book but had come to see us. Well, not necessarily,
We had
so,
an audience.
yeah, we did all right.
Nice.
We did have audience as well, didn't we? So
Yeah, and books were sold as well, which was even better. So it was really lovely.
Even better. Yeah.
better, indeed.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. It was
Yeah.
good. We'll do this again sometime. We'll do it again next month. And as I say, there's the in-person speakeasy on Wednesday next week. And there's the Unity Festival stuff going on as well. So there's all sorts of shenanigans afoot. But great stuff tonight, guys. Really good. Look after yourselves and get home safe. And see you next time.
That
Bye.
still makes me
Bye-bye.
laugh.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Take care.